Yeah, Thomas, you mentioned it. It's a coming home for me. Nearly 20 years ago, exactly in this room, I defended my habilitation thesis. So there's a lot of emotion when coming back to this place. And I just saw that Markus Schwaninger is in the room. All I know about system dynamics and all the system issues are quite relevant for the Institute. I have learned from you, so I'm so happy having you here in the room. We are in Switzerland, really starting 1:30 when it's 1:30, and this after the lunch break. It's really incredible. I like Switzerland and this punctuality. And now I have the task to wake you up after this lunch break again. And I want to do it by bringing together the two poles Christian Pohl mentioned today in the morning, that on the one hand, we have the focus on responsible leadership for the whole day, but also the overall issue of sustainable universities is in the room. And this is a little bit linking my own past, coming here from the University of St.Gallen and being much influenced by this very comprehensive understanding of management and what management is, and bringing together with what I'm doing now, being within the German science system, and they're doing a lot on fight for more sustainable and transdisciplinary universities and the science system that is changing in this direction. And I think this is one of the reasons that Thomas asked me to give a stakeholder perspective on the issue. Because on the one hand, and I just brought it with me, I'm a kid out of the system. So here being trained in St.Gallen, being a professor in Germany, being a university president, now the head of one of the non-university research institutes. But on the other hand, I always was a little bit a kid of societal movements, strongly involved in the environmental movement, Friends of the Earth Germany, being a member of the presidential board of the Protestant Kirchentag. So we talked a lot about values. One of the most influential impressions I got over the last 3 years is by being in such a board and seeing how the people, especially theologen, always the TH issue is quite, you know what I mean, or if theologians talk about these issues, it's so inspiring, because what this discipline is doing for 2,000 years now is having a talk about values, different values, and arguing about values. So if you want to bring value issues in the intellectual and knowledge arena, this is one of the most influential disciplines, and it's so inspiring to be in an environment that is dealing with these issues. And then Thomas mentioned it, being a member of the German Advisory Council for Global Change. That is the council that is advising the German government on all these global change and environmental issues. So just being quite close to the needs that are necessary for the politicians to make their decisions in designing the global transformation processes we are in. And what I want to do is giving you an idea that this triangle of responsible, and that means oriented to society, leadership, and this is the understanding of management, education stays for science as a science system, that this triangle has much more aspects than it's already today discussed within the management science community. And doing this, my starting point is, as I mentioned, this very comprehensive understanding of management that is the basis of what is done here in St.Gallen. Understanding management as a design, control, and development of complex, productive social systems. And this is so important because social systems are enterprises and businesses, but you can apply, by having such a broad understanding, this idea of management to any kind of social systems, also the university system, the science system, but the overall societal systems at all. And with this very broad view, you will see it's much more easier to better understand how manifold the interlinkages between these three poles are. And I want to start with the interaction between society and management. This is what we are just in midst, what is discussed in management science, and then want to enlarge it to go to the specific role of science and the science system in societal transformation processes. And this is a little bit this jumping from the knowledge, just being spectator of what is happening between management and science, to understanding that scientists, the science system is a vivid part of these societal transformation processes, that we are also acting within the system, and that a reflexive management science has to keep this into regard and will enlarge its possibilities to be a part of these transformation processes. Starting with, shutting up the monitor, starting with the first relationship. I just put it on the notion of corporate social responsibility. So meaning when management and business is taking society into account. And this discussion now is over 25, 30 years old. It was very heavily influenced by a lot of work that was done here in St.Gallen in the 90s, when we had these first projects on environment and competitiveness. We were just in this field. And Thomas Dillig and Catherine Muff just published a very interesting article showing that we are in a development from a business sustainability 1.0 to business sustainability 3.0, just marking a little bit the way we are just going. So just in the beginning, business education and business research was about economic concerns and explaining business students and business how to increase shareholder value. And as Dieter Euler mentioned today in the morning, for many of the students coming here to the University of St. Gallen, that is what they want to learn, how to get the skills to bring shareholder value to a maximum. And then, beginning with the end of the 80s, the 90s, there was more and more clear that when you want to understand how to create a better shareholder value, it's good to take social and environmental aspects into concern, because coming from society, for more and more industries, they also have a business impact. And so it's quite sensible to understand these impacts. And what we have done here with our work on environment and competitiveness, we try to better understand this business sustainability 1.0, to see how ecological, social aspects have a direct influence on business, and how an environmental and a social-oriented business can be, at the end, raise shareholder value. And for the last 10 to 15 years, more and more is clear that the societal pressure on the industries, the legitimation to doing the societal legitimation to do their business, makes it more and more necessary to understand how, beside economic value, also environmental and social value as ends in itself can be created, just to guarantee these societal foundation of what business is doing. In some industries, the necessities to do this are already stronger. In other ones, it's still weaker. But especially when looking to Germany, what we are now discussing with the energy transition, our Energiewende, where the societal legitimization for a specific form of energy production vanished from one point to another. So it's so important to understand what is going out there concerning societal environmental needs and their political effects, that this is a kind of business sustainability 2.0 that we are discussing today. And we are on the way, like Thomas and Katrin showing quite impressively in this article, to a business sustainability 3.0 that is not starting its perspective from what is business doing, and then looking at what additional aspects from the outside are coming into the business, but starting from what is happening outside, seeing their great societal challenges, and to ask how I have to design my business to really contribute to these challenges. And this debate, that is my assumption, will become stronger and stronger over the next 10 or 15 years. Some of you have mentioned that Naomi Klein just published their book, Climate versus Capitalism. So you have a new, huge wave of capitalism critics that hasn't been seen over the last 30 years. So there is a strong dynamics going on in asking if the kind we are organizing our economic and societal system is really sustainable, or don't we need dramatic shifts? And this discussion will be led by the function companies, especially great big companies have in the economic and societal process. And if more and more industries are not able to understand great challenges and ask what they can contribute to solve these challenges, that will lead to not only take the legitimization for specific companies or industries, but for our economic system at all. So these kind of business sustainability 3.0 will be the next challenge we are confronted with, and I'm so happy that you made up this discussion by this article, and I hope, and I'm looking forward to work on this perspective together here with the university and you in the next years. So this is the classical perspective, having management, having businesses, and asking us what means to take more into account societal trends. Quite closely connected to this business sustainability 3.0 is the interrelationship that is going exactly in the other direction, taking societal challenges. And I just have the cover of the last flagship report of the German Advisory Council, who is analyzing the global state of the environment and making clear that if we are not able to come to a really great transition, and that means the transition of our technical and infrastructure systems, our economic models, then we come in really big trouble in this 21st century. So that's the analysis coming from the outside, seeing what is happening on this planet in ecological and social and also in economic terms, and that the 21st century will be the one where a great transformation process that is comparable to what we have seen at last for the Industrial Revolution has to take place over the next 50 and 60 years. And this is one of the reasons why you should never underassess Wuppertal. Wuppertal was one of the capitals of this Industrial Revolution. Chemical companies like Bayer were founded in Wuppertal. A lot of technical innovations came out of Wuppertal, but also a lot of social innovations. Friedrich Engels is a son of the city. A lot of social and social welfare state innovations are coming out of Wuppertal, and I promise you, with this Wuppertal Institute and the Wuppertal University in this city, you will see a lot of the innovations of this great transformation of the 21st century again coming out of Wuppertal. So we are working for it, and you can be happy to have such a strong partner in the German science system. So we need this great transformation, and that means not only to understand change in business and industries, but also to understand change processes in cities, or what is connected to urban transition to sustainability, new forms of social entrepreneurship, social business. So here you see, if you have this comprehensive understanding of management and the complex design and control of productive social systems, then you have a perspective, you get aspects and perspectives what can be used from successful transformation change processes in other areas and to transport it to, for example, to the design of urban transition processes. And especially what is happening in these non-commercial forms of management we see in social entrepreneurship, in social businesses, is quite interesting because it's, I think, one of the most dynamic forms of bringing forward a change in our societies. And it becomes then very interesting if you look to the hybrid forms, where classical forms of management, capital investment are coming together with these new forms of engagement. And this broader view on management can help us to have a very freshening view on transformation processes. And I always feel how happy I am that I'm a management scientist. Normally that's a tough life. I have 3 kids, one is doing chemical study, the other one is doing information science, and they're always smiling at their father. That you only did management science. That's not a real science. We will become real scientists. What you have done, yeah, it's, I don't know, it's a little bit talking about some narratives and histories. But now in this field of great transformation, you're working together a lot with social scientists. And social scientists are fantastic in analyzing and in deconstructing and in criticizing a state of a society, a state of complex social systems. And they have real big problems in just becoming pragmatic, taking together different aspects and theory elements and bringing it into frames, matrices only with 4 fields that make people that have to act, making them to act, because having just the courage to a radical form of to make complex problems much more easier to grasp, complex reduction, I think that is so important to see that this kind of knowledge is absolutely needed if you want to have an orientational function for people that are in responsibility. And so, as management scientists, from the beginning on, you feel quite free to look what other disciplines can help to contribute to give, in our case, mostly managers, an orientation that helps them to make their business better. And here we really can see that when talking about this great transformation, that coming from with such a comprehensive management perspective can be quite helpful. So this is the classical society management interrelationship in 2 aspects. And up to this point, we as scientists, as management scientists, are just watching what is happening out there. We can describe what I have just done, but science is not part of the game. And what I now want to do is to bring science into the game. What we have done over the last years under the label of transformative science is science that is understood as an integral part of the societal transformation processes, and the pledge for understanding the institutional dimension of science and the science system. And when I'm here and looking back for the last 20 years, then I see the knowing hasn't changed. For the last since 20 years, we know how transdisciplinary works, what a good sustainability strategy would be. And on the attitude side, also, for 20 years, we are a family, we know what is right in our heart, and we have still the same strong beliefs. But what we were lacking, if we are honest, we haven't managed to change the system over the last 20 years. So the skill component, that was weak. We are still in the niches, in the same niches we were 20 years ago. and some of the niches vanished, other one arise, but it's still a niche phenomenon. And that is one of the reasons that we really have to see what are the central skills to understand how we can bring forward changes within the science system. And that means to better understand the institutional dimension of the science and science system. Because at the end, what is happening in a university or in a research organization is not decided by the best ideas or by the right attitude. It's decided by institutional rules, by power, by people and their influence. And you have to understand this institutional dimension to bring other ideas, to bring other attitudes forward within such a system and the institution. And that means looking into the governance in and of higher education. So what are the management principles, the institutional principles within the system? And if you look at it, we see that that has a lot to do with how to organize that new study programs arise, how to develop institutional faculty structures, how to make transdisciplinary work in the university really run, how to design, and that it's a huge challenge, reputational systems within disciplines that have arise very often over 100 and more years, how to influence career pathways within the system. All these aspects are institutional ones and are absolutely necessary to come to content and methodological changes, because they are the environment for everything what is happening within the institution. So we not only have to understand that always when I'm teaching, I have implicit values, and the way is to make it more explicit. Always when I'm teaching, I'm always give in a given institutional environment, and have to be aware of these institutional mechanisms, and being also an institutional actor to bring these aspects forward. And this is something which just played a quite important role within the German science system over the last years. And it will be quite interesting today in the afternoon to have Sascha Spoon here on the podium, because he is the only university president in Germany that really succeeded in breaking well-established structures within the university. And it was in a very specific situation. He overtook the University of Lüneburg. It's quite interesting to talk with him what all is needed to come up to complete new faculty structures, new form of professorships, complete new form of study systems that has been established. And we have more than 300 universities in Germany, and only one really made it up, and that shows how important this institutional dimension is. The second aspect when bringing science in a better understanding of society transformation processes is to see that societal impact, and we just make it a little bit more clear by the Future Earth program, the program for global change, that is bringing together on an international level all the aspects of global change research, and is now working with the idea of co-design and co-production, an idea that is quite familiar for everybody who is doing transdisciplinary research for the last 20 years, like most of you here in Switzerland, and meaning the central aspect is that you integrate in the design of research questions, in the design of research programs, the ones that want and have to work with the results of this research. Because only if you ask at the end questions that are also interesting for the people that are involved in societal transformation processes, then these people will be interested in the answers. And the big problem with regular science is that the questions are normally only defined by the scientists themselves, and then they are very disappointed that the answers they are giving, nobody is interested in. So bringing in not only business, but also civil society organizations, NGOs in this co-design process will be of quite importance if we really want to bring on such great transformation processes. And this was one important step in the German science system in 2012, when in this year, first time in the history of Germany, an environmental organization, Friends of the Earth Germany, formulated a science policy paper, having an own idea what they want to have from science policy. And this was really a eruption, because up to this point, only the scientists and the research organizations and a little bit business defined what the money is spent for, what are the research questions that are dealt with in the science system, and now having new partners in this game, saying we also want to have an influence, we need more plurality in the way we are discussing about research questions, defined the political platform in a complete new way. And I always tell the example of the head of the Friends of the Germany, Hubert Weiger, such a Bavarian guy. He's a very, very solid guy. And politics really fear him, because when he says something very clearly, people know, okay, we have to take it in regard. And when now Hubert Weiger is talking about transdisciplinarity, people listening to him and having the impression, oh, we have to care about this aspect, seems to be important. They have never listened to all of our community when scientists talk about the importance of transdisciplinarity. So, and this is a part of this institutional reflexivity and this institutional literacy we know to understand how also science policy and institutional games are redefined if completely new players are coming into the arena. And now I will finish, because Thomas showed me 1 minute. And the most easiest dimension of all, that means bringing all together, co-steering of science by, co-steering of society and transformation processes by science, can be read in the book I just showed you now, is always based on something. The first foundings were also laid here in St.Gallen. And then in '98 we made this study together with Jörg Minch and others, looking at the organizational principles of modern societies. And modern societies are characterized by the functional division of these societies. So we need highly specialized political system, science system, business system that guarantees the high productivities we have in these systems, with the problematic effect that much more specialized subsystems are more and more, have more and more problems to reflect and to have in mind the unwanted side effects they are producing. And at the end, ecological, social problems are unwanted, but they are a result of these kind of societal organization. And when taking this analysis that is quite established in the social sciences, it's quite interesting to ask who can be the catalysts, the instances in a society that help to reintegrate these developments by putting in more reflexivity, creating platforms for participation, being a center of innovation, social and technical innovation, and also being the part of power and conflict resolution. And the hypothesis here is, and I will stop at this point, that the science system can play a much more important role in this reintegrating modern societies. And this is a pledge that is highly offended in the science system. We have very controversial debates in Germany about this now, but this is really on the heart of bringing together the 3 poles I started with. So I just can resume. You're the right place to discuss about these issues. You just framed it absolutely right for this Sustainable University Day. And I hope, if I come back here in 20 years, that we also have built up these institutional capacities and that we will see it's not only niches anymore. These universities and a lot of others in the world have changed. And what I can contribute to it, incorporating with you, I will do. Thank you very much.